Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. It's my name's James, by the way. It's Tuesday, so I'm doing a tag. I've been tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat, and the tag is the New York tag, which was created by Jim at Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. And I'm gonna do this one right now. Jim says this is the third of my city tags on BookTube, after the London and Paris tags earlier this year. I think this is a fairly old tag, but here are 9 prompts related to New York City. If they interest you, feel free to do the tag. If you don't have your own YouTube channel, you can put your answers in the comments. Sure, go ahead. So anyway, I will do this. The prompts. Number 1, what is your favorite book set in or around New York? I'm going to say Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I've mentioned that book on this channel before. I like it a lot. I think more people should read it. You think you know what it is, you don't know. It's crazy. But there's so many great books set in and around New York City. It is difficult to choose one. Bartleby the Scrivener. I can't. I'll just name a bunch of stuff from New York. So I'm going to go on. Number 2, New York is famous for its skyscrapers. What is the highest building you have been up? My friends, it is the World Trade Center Tower, the original ones, pre 2001, and I have been up to the top of them. I grew up in Queens and on Long Island, so it was occasionally a field trip or a place we would get taken, on an outing. The last time I was there, I don't remember if it was 2000 or 2001, but my father and my stepmother got married there at it was kind of a radio stunt where one of the local radio stations on Valentine's Day said, hey, if you want to get married at the top of the World Trade Center, give us a call. And my dad and his, I guess, girlfriend, fiance at the time, they called in. They got married at the top of the World Trade Center. I went there. I was his best man. There were, I think, 2 other couples there. It was after hours. Everything was closed. So it was kind of neat to be up there, like everything empty. We were on the observation level, so not on the roof, but the very top level that you could go to. And there was a Sbarro's Italian food mall, Italian food that stayed open and provided food. And we did also get to go up on the actual roof. So, and that was Valentine's Day 2000 or 2001. I think it was 2001. The last time I was at the World Trade Center, not going up in the buildings, was also in 2001 in the summer. And I was part of a musical performance. It was, I think, the premiere of a symphony for 100 electric guitars written by Glenn Branca, the late Glenn Branca. It was his 13th symphony called Hallucination City. And it was in the kind of the plaza in between the 2 towers. And what you might not notice you probably have seen the pictures from the after the destruction of the towers, is those things they called like potato chips or something. These big pieces of the wall that are kind of like a square, sort of like this, a square form shape, and that was those lines of structure that went all the way up, and it made for very strange acoustics because they were doing a sound check, and there was one. I think there was only one drummer, and probably about 60 guitar players actually, and like 20 bassists. But the drummer would hit a drum, and it was kind of like a saw, like the way that it bounced off of them. It just sort of went. It was very strange. My ears were ringing for a couple of days after that, and it taught me a lesson about being more careful exposing myself to extremely loud noise. Yeah, so New York, New York. Yes, prompt number 3. So good they named it twice. What is the last book you reread? The Great Gatsby, which Pat named as her favorite New York novel. And it is kind of a New York novel and a Long Island novel also. But even, well, Nick Carraway at the very end says, you know, I realize that all the main characters here are Westerners, which he means Midwesterners, and this is basically a Western story, not cowboys, but people from the Midwest, from Chicago and Minnesota and Wisconsin, who went to New York. Um, not that Pat is wrong. I'm just I'm just saying, it's a great New York novel, but I think it's a great everything novel. Well, and so is Invisible Man. I mean, and the protagonist of that book moves there from the South. So, you know, there's, all right. I wasn't sure if I was going to read this quote, but a quote from the essays of E.B. White that I have in this old book that I got at a thrift store, and it has a book plate from some previous owners from the New York Public Library, which is kind of cool. I guess they used to sell book plates as a souvenir. So he has a famous essay called Here is New York. And I'll read a little bit of it, which I think kind of taps into some of what Fitzgerald was talking about with Gatsby being a Western story. There are roughly three New Yorks. There is first the New York of the man or woman who was born there, who takes the city for granted and accepts its size and its turbulence as natural and inevitable. Second, there is the New York of the commuter, the city that is devoured by locusts each day and spat out each night. Third, there is the New York of the person who was born somewhere else and came to New York in quest of something. Of these three trembling cities, the greatest is the last, the city of final destination, the city that is a goal. It is this third city that accounts for New York's high-strung disposition, its poetical deportment, its dedication to the arts, and its incomparable achievements. Commuters give the city its title restlessness, natives give it solidity and continuity, but the settlers give it passion. And whether it is a farmer arriving from Italy to set up a small grocery store in a slum, or a young girl arriving from a small town in Mississippi to escape the indignity of being observed by her neighbors, or a boy arriving from the Corn Belt with a manuscript in his suitcase and a pain in his heart, it makes no difference. Each embraces New York with the intense excitement of first love. Each absorbs New York with the fresh eyes of an adventurer. Each generates heat and light to dwarf the Consolidated Edison Company. That was the old electric company, Con Ed, as they called it. So that's from E.B. White's great essay, Here is New York. And I am sort of a native. I was born in the borough of Queens. I grew up there, and then when I was in fourth grade, we moved out to Long Island. So always kind of within the orbit. I went to college there. I lived there in my 20s. So I'm kind of a native, kind of someone who went there as a destination. Not a final destination, though. But, well, who knows? It doesn't look like it. Anyway, number 4. American Psycho was a disturbing novel. Oh, boy. Set in New York. Have not read it, by the way. What is the most disturbing book you have read? Yeah, so I have not read American Psycho. I don't know if I'm going to. I don't know, but one that kind of haunts me at times is Red Sorghum by Mo Yan, which is a historical novel of China during, well, what would become World War II. It was when the Japanese were invading China in, I guess, the early 30s. And told from the point of view of some rural people in China who are being brutalized by these Japanese. And there is a scene of an old man being publicly executed by the Japanese that is horrifying. Anyway, I don't want to think about it. Anyway, it haunts me. So yeah, number 5. Where were you when you heard the news about 9/11? I was in New York. I was at the time taking classes at Hunter College to prepare for getting a graduate degree in ethnomusicology. I lived in Long Island City, and from the name of it, it's not clear where it is, but Long Island City is a part of the borough of Queens that is directly across the East River from the United Nations building. And I was, you know, on a side street that was a couple of blocks from the river. And so if I went out to my corner and walked a few blocks down, I would get a pretty good view of the World Trade Center. And I heard the news on the radio. I was getting ready to go to classes that morning. I turned on the television. I saw it. I went out and I looked and I saw it with my own eyes. I had thought maybe I should hurry up and get to the train before there's trouble. It's a good thing that I didn't hurry up and get to the train before there was trouble, because I would have ended up. They shut down the trains and I would have ended up having to walk back. Yeah, so I was there, and I was down in Lower Manhattan in the weeks and months afterward. I had friends who lived down there. I had work down there at a theater, and I'll never forget the smell that came from the World Trade Center. Yeah. So let's see. What is your favorite movie set in New York? Um, I wrote down a few. I like a lot of the classic Scorsese and Coppola movies of Italian Americans. Uh, I think there's a couple that I will always. I don't know that I'll always. I'm always up to watch some of Goodfellas, I guess, even though that's more of a Queens, well, Long Island Queens kind of story. I will say Inside Llewyn Davis. If I have to pick one, I'll say Inside Llewyn Davis from, what was that, 2009, or no, that was 12, somewhere in there, 12 or 13, and the story of a folk singer in the same kind of orbit as a pre-fame Bob Dylan. So the folk revival, and he's a guy from the outer boroughs, based sort of on Dave Van Ronk, who is another hero of mine. But yeah, definitely a more sour character than Dave Van Ronk ever was. Is the main character in Inside Llewyn Davis. Number 7, have you been to New York? When was the last time you visited New York? Well, as I said earlier, I lived in New York. I was born there and grew up. The last time I visited the city, as people in the area call Manhattan, was 2009. I went to see. I traveled up to visit my mother on Long Island. I went into the city, met up with my friend. We went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, favorite of mine, and we saw King Crimson in concert at Radio City Music Hall with 3 drummers. It was amazing. Let's see. Who is your favorite painter from New York, or what is your favorite painting of New York? Um, I don't know about a favorite painting of New York. My favorite New York painter is Willem de Kooning, who is Dutch, but he was an immigrant, and that's what actually a lot of my picks involve. The ones that are to come involve immigrants. So we're actually at one more. So, what is your favorite song about New York? Um, I don't know. I named a few of them. Lovecraft in Brooklyn by the Mountain Goats. Ladies Who Lunch from Sondheim's Company. The Body of an American by the Pogues. Fairy Tale of New York. That's also okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed. Probably Walk on the Wild Side is, I mean, I don't know. I don't put it on a lot, but I've heard it so many times. And Lou Reed is, he's also a Long Islander who really liked going into the city. Of course, he made it his final destination in a way. Um, and yeah, just like the idea that he captures in there, that you could go there and reinvent yourself. Um, so that is my version of the New York tag. I've got alternate picks for all these, as you can guess. I'm going to tag some people. I tag Jess Book Girl TV, who's a channel that is new to me, but she's from Long Island, and so check out her channel. I'm sure she's got some answers to this list. Linda at Elder Talk. I don't know where she lives, but she's got a good channel. She's doing some reading for my Gable Prill event, and I'm going to tag Daniel at Guilty Feet, who has a great channel, soft spoken but very funny, and very thoughtful. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.